the best of Money Matters.
Market View on Money FM 89.3.
That's right, you're tuning in to Money FM 89.3. Time now for Market View with me, Chua Tian Tian, where we take you through how the Singapore stock market closed for the day, the biggest movers, sectors, and of course the companies to watch. But as always, a quick recap of some key movements while Singapore shares rose today, even as investors continue to monitor incoming developments on the tariff front. So if we look at the Straits Times Index, it was up 0.37% at 4,102 points at about 12:58 p.m. Singapore time, and that is with a value turnover of some 597 million Sing dollars seen in the broader market. Now let's take you through the closing numbers. The STI ended in the green as well, up 0.52% at the close. We're looking at 4,109 points. Now in terms of value turnover, that's 1.41 billion Sing dollars. Gainers outnumbered losers 315 versus 191. Top advances for today, we've got for you Asus, GMH USD and New Incorporation USD. And top decliners, we have MSC, Penguin International and IHH. Well, in terms of companies to watch, we have the local boss, the SGX, given the excitement surrounding NTTDC REIT's IPO on the local boss. Now, so far, the manager of NTTDC REIT said the public tranche of its Singapore IPO was about 9.8 times oversubscribed. Now, elsewhere from China's exports rising more than expected in June to Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang set to hold a media briefing in Beijing on Wednesday. We've got more international and corporate headlines in focus. And joining us to break down the developments is David Kuo, co-founder of The Smart Investor. Mr. Kuo, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tian Tian. How are you this bright and cheerful Monday morning?
Oh, bright and cheerful. Rainy, you mean?
No, it's not that bad. It's actually cooler than I would normally expect this time of year. It tends to be too hot sometimes.
I would appreciate some rain and some, at this time of the year. But let's start with the U.S. this time around, Mr. Kuo. Trump had on Saturday said he would impose a 30% tariff on most imports from the EU and Mexico from the 1st of August. Now, the EU meantime said it would extend a suspension of countermeasures to U.S. tariffs until early August and continue to press for this negotiated settlement. Do you think there are any long-term implications for global markets given Trump's on-off tariff threats?
Well, I think it already is causing a lot of unrest around the markets around the world. I mean, first of all, you said that many of the Asian markets were on tenterhooks. People are a little bit concerned, so therefore they're not willing to invest in shares at the moment. In other words, risk off. But in general, I think we have to wait until August 1st to see what happens. I mean, we still have a couple of weeks before August the 1st, so therefore there is time for both the European Union and Mexico and America to resolve whatever trade problems they have. I mean, quite frankly, I think this is just more noise for investors to try and negotiate in turn.
Talk about noise. I was just reading about the Fed, the ongoing rift between the Trump administration and Fed Chair Jerome Powell and the renovation cost of the Fed buildings. But, we'll get on with the movements for the day. Staying on the topic of the EU, a top official said the bloc is looking to deepen trade agreements with India and other countries in APEC as it braces for U.S. tariffs. Who will then be the biggest beneficiaries?
Well, I think we have to have a look at what generally the European Union exports to America. So pharmaceuticals is a big one. So lots of the European pharmaceutical companies export their goods to America. Then we have the car manufacturers, the likes of the German car manufacturers, the French, the Italian, Spanish car manufacturers export a lot of stuff to America. And then we have wines and spirits. So we all know and love many of the European wines and some of the European spirit makers. And then one that you probably do like, Tian Tian.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound sexist, but perfumes, So therefore,
okay.
So all of these goods are not going to be making their way to America if there are going to be 30% tariffs, and so therefore the European Union has to find new markets for them. So if we have a look at that list of goods, well, a couple of things that interest me. I mean, one of them would be wines and spirits, and the other one would, of course, be cars. And so, therefore, we could actually find that the European Union will have to find new markets for these goods, and those goods could find their way into the rest of the world if America doesn't want it. But I think, generally, there will be an agreement between America and the European Union because, I mean, just as Europe exports a lot of stuff to America, so too does America export stuff to Europe. So we have things, again, like pharmaceuticals, the American pharmaceutical companies, the American fuel, of course, aerospace, aircraft, things like Boeing. I mean, we don't want to sort of see that come to a complete and total halt. So I think there will be some agreement between those two countries.
Okay, and Mr. Kuo, if we could go back to the Singapore stock market as usual, how did the STI fare today? And of course, any surprises when it comes to the companies to watch, say OCBC, given how its Group CEO Helen Wong will be stepping down soon?
Well, I mean, OCBC did okay today, and I think, this is quite healthy. They've announced early that Helen Wong will be stepping down towards the end of this year. So there is going to be a good 6 months handover, 5 months handover period between Helen and the new CEO coming in. So I think that should reassure investors. And, as we saw in the case of DBS, when Piyush Gupta handed over, I mean, there was a long handover period and there was not a lot of concern in the market. I mean, what we don't want is for the CEO to step down today and say, I'm going to be handing over to somebody tomorrow. That scares the market. But in this case, I mean, it is a planned handover, which is good. The other question you asked was, how did the Singapore market fare today? Quite interesting. A lot of the real estate investment trusts did very well today. And I think that is an indication that perhaps investors are thinking that interest rates may be coming down shortly. And so, therefore, where better to put your money than in real estate investment trusts or REITs.
We'll talk about REITs for the next two questions. So let's start with, what's going on in the local bonds. A lot of excitement surrounding NTTDC REIT's IPO. Now, the manager of NTTDC REIT said the public tranche of the Singapore IPO was about 9.8 times oversubscribed. So do you think this is a sign of more activity to come for SGX given developments surrounding the proposed listing of Centurion Corporation's Centurion Accommodation REIT?
Well, I think SGX has to recognize the fact that it is one of the destinations for real estate investment trusts. I know that maybe SGX would like some of the more high-tech companies to come into Singapore and do a listing. But if you are a destination for companies, and people know that there are lots of REITs here in Singapore, and I do remember sort of looking at one of the financial channels, and they said, if I want REITs, this particular commentator, if I want REITs, I go to Singapore. And I think, this is something that Singapore should be celebrating, that a company like NTT wants to come to Singapore and list its data center REIT here in Singapore. And I think, that is a healthy sign. And if you are good at something, then just carry on and try and attract as many REITs as possible. As a REIT investor myself, I couldn't be more delighted to see more and more REITs coming to Singapore, so I have a lot of choice. And if you have a look at how NTT did today, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was supposed to open at $1. During the day, it went up to 102, 103. Then it came back down to 101, and I think it closed the day at around $1. So what it really means is that whoever was planning the flotation of NTT in Singapore has got the pricing right. What you don't want is for the share price to suddenly shoot up to $1.30, which means that somebody made an error in the calculation of the REIT because they left too much money on the table. Then again, on the other hand, what you don't really want is for the REIT to go down too much because it means that they have actually cheated investors because those investors that bought at $1 suddenly find it fell to 70 cents. So I think what we have done so far is to sort of get the pricing absolutely right.
Okay, now speaking of REITs, Mr. Kuo, industrial S-REITs, they are set to report results soon, and so for market watchers, they remain cautious on the sector's performance, given uncertainties relating to U.S. tariffs. I'm guessing also uncertainties relating interest rates as well. So what are you watching for this time around?
Well, I have a couple of industrial REITs that will be reporting. So one of them is Catalana Centers REIT, and the other one is Maple Tree Industrial Trust. And both of these are in the industrial sector. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, the valuation is kind of right at the moment. And if we do believe that interest rates are heading lower, then I think that generally people will be looking around for REITs and saying that they have, number one, good cash flow. Number two, if interest rates do come down, it means that the REITs will be able to, if they want to, go out and buy more assets. And that is actually for the benefit of unit holders. So I'm not too worried about the industrial REITs. It really is a case of supply and demand. I mean, if there isn't a huge supply of industrial space on the market, then I think the REITs will be able to hopefully raise their rent slightly, and I think that will be for the benefit of unit holders.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're just tuning in, we're now in conversation with David Kuo, co-founder, The Smart Investor. Well, Mr. Kuo, across the region, China's exports rose more than expected in June after Washington and Beijing agreed to a tentative deal to lower tariffs on each other. Now, what implications would this have on Chinese equities markets? Plus, we've got more economic data out tomorrow. So what are you expecting on this front then?
Look, I think, the export numbers were good. But I think we have to be very careful because we don't know where those exports went to. I presume a bunch of those exports came over here to Southeast Asia, maybe to North Asia, some of those countries. And as a result of that, Chinese exports were good. So therefore means that China doesn't particularly need to cut interest rates severely in order to drive its economy, because it means that the industrial sector, the industrial side, is doing quite well. The problem, of course, is those goods that come to Southeast Asia, where are they eventually destined? Is it parts that are coming out from China to Southeast Asia, where they are assembled, and then eventually find their way to the U.S. market? In which case, the Trump administration has already said that they not only want to tax the direct export from China to America, but also the transshipment as well. So we have to tread very carefully and sort of say, what has happened to these exports? And it can't possibly be that Southeast Asia has suddenly replaced America as a destination for all of these exports. I suspect it is some kind of transshipment, and I think it's parts that are being assembled and then making their way to America. So it's going to America through the back door.
Okay, now speaking of China, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, he'll hold a media briefing in Beijing on the 16th of July, that is Wednesday, marking his second visit to the country after a trip in April where he stressed the importance of the Chinese market. Now, what do you think will be discussed this time around? What's at stake for Nvidia?
Well, Jensen Huang is a salesman, so therefore he's going to China to try and sell stuff. And I think he will be trying to find out from the Chinese tech companies what it is they want, what it is that he can sell to them without treading on the rules regarding the exports of goods to China from America. But he has already said ahead of this meeting that China is unlikely to be using any of the chips that he manufactures for military use. And the reasoning he gave was that just as America is very suspicious of Chinese-made electronics, I think the Chinese are also just as suspicious of American-made electronics, and so therefore they would much rather use their homegrown stuff. So I think he's just going to find out from China what he can sell to them, and then try and sell as much as possible. Because China is a huge market for artificial intelligence. And I presume he'd just be taking his order book over there and writing down as many orders as he can. And if he does that, then he will have had a successful trip, not only for him, but also for the shareholders of Nvidia. And I see it is now a $4 trillion company. Extraordinary.
Indeed. And finally, before we let you go, Mr. Kuo, Bitcoin crossed the 120,000 US dollar level for the first time today, marking this major milestone for the cryptocurrency as investors bet on long-sought policy wins for the industry this week. Any initial thoughts on the record being reached?
Well, I mean, if you own Bitcoins, then great, yeah. But as you know, Tian Tian, I have said so many times,
yes,
I don't understand Bitcoins, right? If I had a Bitcoin, I'd be delighted. But I don't have a Bitcoin. Well, I take you out for lunch around a Bitcoin, Tian Tian, but I don't have a Bitcoin anywhere. So therefore, lunch is off the table at the moment. But I still don't understand what is the investing rationale behind Bitcoin. Frankly, what am I buying? I'm buying something that I hope will go up in price, and I've seen people say it could go up to $1 million. If it does, then it's great for all those Bitcoin holders. But why is it going up to $1 million? That's the question I have to ask myself. And if I can't find the reason why it is worth $1 million, then whether it is 120,000 or whether it is $1, I'm still not going to buy it yet.
Lots to think about indeed. Thanks so much for the insights as always, Mr. Kuo. That was David Kuo, co-founder of The Smart Investor. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Money FM 89.3.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance.